Late one evening, in a small, secluded town nestled deep in the forest, a man named Tom decided to go for a walk. He had just moved into an old cabin on the edge of the woods, a place that had been abandoned for years. The townsfolk had warned him about the forest, whispering tales of strange happenings and eerie sounds that echoed through the trees. But Tom was a man of reason, dismissing their stories as nothing more than local superstition. As he ventured deeper into the woods, the air grew colder and the trees seemed to close in around him. The path became less distinct, swallowed by the creeping darkness. The forest was unnervingly silent. No rustling of leaves, no chirping of birds, just the sound of his own footsteps crunching on the dead leaves beneath him. Suddenly, Tom felt a chill run down his spine. He stopped, listening intently, and that's when he heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, like the breath of the wind, yet there was no wind. It was as if the trees themselves were murmuring, speaking a language he could not understand. He shrugged it off, telling himself it was just the wind, but his heart began to race. He continued walking, but now there was something different, a sense of being watched. He could feel eyes on him, though every time he turned around, he saw nothing but the dense, impenetrable darkness. The further he went, the more oppressive the feeling became, as if something unseen was following him, closing the distance with every step. Tom's rational mind told him to turn back, but something compelled him to keep going. The whispers grew louder, more distinct, forming words that made no sense but filled him with a deep, primal fear. His breath quickened, his steps faltering as the feeling of being watched became unbearable. Then he saw it, a flicker of movement in the shadows just beyond his sight. He froze, staring into the darkness, straining to see what was there. For a moment, there was nothing, just the oppressive silence and the darkness pressing in around him. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of something. Tall, gaunt, with eyes that glowed faintly in the dark like embers. Tom's blood ran cold. The figure was barely visible, but it was there, watching him from the shadows. He turned and began to run, heart pounding in his chest, but the forest seemed to twist and turn, leading him deeper into its depths. The whispers grew louder, now a cacophony of voices that filled his mind with dread. No matter how fast he ran, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The thing in the shadows was following him, always just out of sight, but he knew it was there, waiting for the moment to strike. Panic set in as he realized he was lost, the path back to his cabin long forgotten. Desperation clawed at him as he ran blindly through the woods, branches tearing at his clothes and skin. He could feel the thing getting closer, the whispers now deafening, like 1,000 voices crying out in agony. He stumbled, falling hard to the ground, and as he scrambled to get up, he felt something cold and clammy brush against his ankle. Tom screamed, kicking out at whatever had touched him, but there was nothing there. He scrambled to his feet and kept running, but his legs felt like lead, his strength draining away with each step. The darkness was closing in, suffocating him, and he knew deep down that he would never make it out of the forest alive. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the whispers stopped. The forest was silent once more, the oppressive feeling lifted. Tom collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, his body trembling with fear. For a moment, he thought it was over, that whatever had been following him was gone. But as he looked up, he saw it, the figure standing right in front of him, no longer hiding in the shadows. It was tall, impossibly thin, with long, bony fingers that reached out toward him. Its face was a twisted, grotesque mockery of a human face, with hollow eyes that burned with an unnatural light. Tom couldn't move, couldn't scream, as the thing leaned down, its face inches from his own. The whispers returned, but now they were inside his head, filling his mind with images of death and despair. The thing smiled, a hideous grin that stretched across its face, and then it spoke, its voice a raspy whisper that echoed in his skull. "You should have listened to the warnings," it hissed. "Now you will join the others." The last thing Tom saw was the figure's eyes, glowing brighter as it reached out and touched his forehead with one cold skeletal finger. Pain shot through his body, and then everything went black. The next morning, the townsfolk found Tom's body at the edge of the forest, his face frozen in a mask of terror. They shook their heads, muttering prayers for his soul, and once again warned each other to stay away from the woods at night. But they knew, as they always had, that the forest had claimed another victim, and that the Watcher in the woods would continue to haunt those who dared to enter its domain.